And this is all part of a broader evolution of our understanding of what human trafficking is. And, in the broader movement, we're still very much in some ways in the infancy of understanding all of the different complexities of what human trafficking is. When the TVPA was first enacted by Congress, there was a feeling by many that, there weren't US citizen victims, both in the labor trafficking as well as in the sex trafficking context. And of course, over the years, as advocates came along and actually began to show how, the paradigm of forced fraud or coercion was being used against US citizens to compel them into human trafficking situations, law enforcement and the broader anti-trafficking apparatus evolved to recognize that US citizens, yes, in fact, can be victims of trafficking. And this, has primarily played out in the sex trafficking context, but I think we're also starting to see a broader awakening now in the labor trafficking context, particularly around individuals who are very vulnerable, who are forced to commit crimes. Now, this is something that in the sex trafficking context as well, advocates have been dealing with for quite a bit of time because, in the sex trafficking context, while there's so much focus on the forced commercial sexual exploitation, there's also a number of other criminal acts that many survivors are forced to commit. Those include things like drug possessions, weapon possessions, trespassing, loitering, all the things that I mentioned before, as well as robbing Johns and the like, right? And so all of those are examples of how, in the sex trafficking context, advocates have really sort of had to sort of try to figure out how to protect those victims from a justice system that, by all accounts, very much sees everything it comes into contact with as sort of a nail, and the justice system being a hammer. So it hasn't really developed the flexibility to handle those cases in the way that they really should be handled, which is treating those survivors as victims of labor trafficking